Do you want the lights on?
Off because we are gonna keep looking at the screen. Hi everyone, I'm Ricky. Most of you guys know me. If you don't know, now you know. So today we are going to be talking about the Virgin of Guadalupe, as today is her feast day, right? And if any of you guys have ever been around Mexican Catholics, you might have seen this image before, right? This image is incredibly ubiquitous, right? We have, hold on, keep the lights on for 1 second. You see that next to that portrait of John Paul, there's an image of Guadalupe. There's another 3 right there, 2 candles. I have it on my little poncho. I got it on my car keys. And I have it on a flag too.
Wow.
Right? This image is ubiquitous. It's like everywhere, right? We got 2 more in the hall. We got one in the Sarah Center, another one in the old mission, right? But do we actually know where the image comes from and the story behind it? Right? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Right? The Virgin of Guadalupe. Give it up, everyone, for the Virgin of Guadalupe. All right. So before we talk about the Virgin of Guadalupe, we need to talk about Marian apparitions. What is a Marian apparition? A Marian apparition is the supernatural appearance of the Virgin Mary in a physical location, right? So people who see the Virgin Mary, and in order for something to qualify as a Marian apparition, Mary has to be physically present in the environment. So hearing her voice but not seeing her does not count. Seeing her in a dream or in a vision does not count, right? And oftentimes, for us as Catholics, Marian apparitions are seen as Mary's motherly love for the church, right? She draws attention to the Christian message. There's lots of Marian apparitions you can look at. Our Lady of Akita, Our Lady of Fatima is another very famous one. Today, we're going to be talking about Our Lady of Guadalupe, right? So now for some historical context, right? Catholicism in the New World. Time and place, Americas, the early, I should say 16th century, not 15th century. So the Aztec Empire is defeated by the conquistadors and their indigenous allies, right? Their indigenous allies included the Tlaxcalteca, which is where my dad's side of the family's from, the Tlaxcalans, the Purepecha, so if you're from Michoacan, you're probably descended from the Purepecha, the Mixtec and Zapotec, so if you're from Oaxaca, you know that's them, and the Otomi, if you're from Puebla or Tlaxcala, that's the Otomi, right? So after the fall of the Aztec Empire, missionary activity increases in Mexico, mostly done by the Franciscans. However, there are some Jesuits sprinkled in there, and they did have their different ways of evangelizing. Franciscans liked to evangelize with the common people, right? Jesuits, they kind of had a different way of doing it. They would evangelize to the kings and to the rich people who would then influence everyone else, right? But Franciscans liked establishing schools and liked being with all of the common folk, right? So there was various reasons for the conversion of indigenous peoples, right? You'll often hear people talk about like the coercion, and not saying that didn't happen, but it definitely wasn't as extreme as a lot of people like to think it is. There was also a lot of political reasons why indigenous peoples converted, right? So for example, in New Spain, you could only be a citizen of New Spain if you were Catholic, right? So in order to get the benefits of citizenship, a lot of indigenous peoples would convert, right? Another reason was for political alliances, right? So there's a story you can read. It's about a king of the Zapotecs, right? He's this guy, and he really doesn't like this other group of indigenous peoples. So he asks the Spanish for help. Hey, can you help me beat these guys? Because they're kind of like in my territory, right? So the Spanish, they don't want to, because this was a time when there was a lot of animosity between Catholics and Protestants in Europe. So the Spanish attitude was, we don't ally ourselves with anyone who's not Catholic, right? So the Zapotec king, in order to get the favor of the Spanish, decided to convert to Catholicism, right? So these are some of the ways that Catholicism spread. Now, this wasn't as widespread as the missionaries would like, right? Maybe you had a few Catholic converts here and there, but overall, most of the indigenous peoples enjoyed just not being Catholic, right? Oh, by the way, this picture is actually a mural in my dad's hometown in Tlaxcala. So it literally depicts the indigenous people being baptized by the Franciscans. And that's Hernan Cortez right there. Right. So now we get to talk about a humble indigenous man by the name of Juan Diego, right? Well, he wasn't actually born Juan Diego. That was a name he took on after he was baptized. His indigenous name is Cuauhtlacautzin, right? He's born in 1474 in what is now Mexico City, right? He was baptized by Franciscan missionaries in 1524, and he was actually known for being pretty religious. He loved the Catholic Church. He loved God, right? And so he took on the Spanish name Juan Diego, and he definitely wasn't rich and influential yet. He when he was growing up and into his adult life, he was a pretty humble man. He wasn't super poor, but wasn't like the most well-known guy either. Also, he did not speak Spanish. So every time he would have to talk to a Spanish official, which we'll get to in a sec, they would need an interpreter to talk to that Spanish official, right? Because people who speak Spanish don't understand people who speak Nahuatl, which was the language that he spoke. He's a Chichimeca man. So Chichimeca are a Nahuatl ethnic group. So they're related to Tlaxcalans, they're related to the Aztecs, etc., etc. And that's a portrait of him, I guess. So now we get to the first apparition, right? So it was just like a day like any other. Juan Diego was walking to Tlatelolco, I believe, that's what he put, yeah, Tlatelolco, to receive catechism and to attend mass, right? Because he was a neophyte, he was a new convert. And he passed by a hill that was commonly called Tepeyac, and all of a sudden he saw a beautiful woman and smelled this like perfume. Like I want you guys to try to imagine this. Imagine you're walking just down the street and you see the most beautiful woman you've ever seen and the most alluring perfume you've ever smelled, right? The woman was giving off a lot of light. She was literally brilliant, not like mentally brilliant, maybe she was, but she was physically brilliant, like giving off light. And it was so bright that we'll talk about that a little bit later. So the woman identified herself as the, quote, mother of the very true deity, right? And she instructed Juan Diego to go talk to the Archbishop of Mexico City and ask for a chapel to be built for her in her honor, right? So Juan Diego agrees, and he goes to meet with the Archbishop of the then Archbishop of Mexico City, Juan de Zumárraga, right, at his residence. Some sources say it was like a palace. Others say it was just like an apartment, but I don't know, right? So Juan Diego, with the help of an interpreter, relayed the message that Our Lady entrusted to him. Please build this chapel in honor of the Virgin Mary. She asked me to tell you this, right? And at first, Zumárraga did not believe him. He was like, I don't know about this. This seems kind of sketch, right? So he told Juan Diego to go kick bricks. He didn't actually say that. He said, I'll think about it. That's what he said. I'll think about it, right? So disheartened, he left the bishop's residence. And this is where we get to the second apparition, right? The second apparition of the Virgin Guadalupe was on that same hill where they met for the first time. And Juan Diego told the Virgin of Guadalupe that the bishop did not believe him because he didn't, right? So the Virgin asked him to try again, right? Don't give up just yet. Do it one more time. Just trust the process, right? Juan Diego was making excuses because he was feeling kind of bad. He didn't feel like he was good enough. Like, I don't know if I should be the one to have to do this. I think there's a lot more qualified candidates to be able to tell the Archbishop that the Virgin Mary wants a church, right? That she wants a chapel built. But the Virgin Mary insisted that Juan Diego go back and tell the bishop again. And these were the words that she said to Juan Diego. Listen to me, my beloved little son. I could send many. I have at my disposal the great ones of the earth and the saints in heaven. I have called you, the smallest and the dearest, to carry my message to the bishop. It is absolutely necessary that you go personally, and that through you my wish be fulfilled. Right? So the Virgin Mary could have had some great noble guy go and relay this message, but she wanted just some rando nobody to do it, right? Which is kind of, we hear that in the gospel a lot, right? Like Jesus didn't come as like some rich guy. He was born in a manger. He was very poor, right, growing up. So kind of a parallel here. So here's the second meeting with the bishop, right? So Juan Diego reluctantly goes, 10th of December, 1531, right? So this was like almost 500 years ago, right? Juan Diego goes to the bishop's residence once again. And once again, Juan Diego tells the bishop about the Virgin and her instructions to build a temple in her honor. The bishop goes like, okay, something's going on here. Juan Diego, I'll tell you what. Why don't you give me a sign from the Virgin Mary? And if you can give me a sign, I will believe you, right? I will believe that it was the Mother of God telling you to build a temple in her honor, right? So Juan Diego left, and the bishop sent he had two servants, right? We'll watch a little clip on it later, but the bishop sent two of his servants to follow Juan Diego around, right? They were following him around and like sneaking up on him. They were spying on him, right? And this is where we get to the third apparition. I don't think I mentioned it in the slide, but I mentioned earlier that the Virgin of Guadalupe was brilliant. She was giving off this bright light. And when the servants of the bishop, Zumarraga, were following Juan Diego, the light of the Virgin Mary was so bright that it actually blinded them, and they couldn't find him after that. They didn't know where he went. As if the light enveloped Juan Diego. They didn't know where he went. Where did he go? He just disappeared. So Juan Diego reports back to the Virgin, and Zumarraga's servants lose track of him. Oh, I did write it, okay. Track of him as Mary's radiance blinds them. The Virgin Mary then instructs Juan Diego to return on the 11th of December, 1531, which, you know, if we're imagining that we're there, that's tomorrow, right? But we're not there, we're here. So she could give him a sign that he requested. Unfortunately, the next day, Juan Diego's uncle falls terribly ill. So terrible that he's probably not going to make it, right? And so as a result of this, Juan Diego has to take care of his uncle, right? Because, like, what do you do for someone that's not you? You got to be there for them, right? And that's pretty much his only family. By this point, we don't know if he did have a wife, but we don't know if the wife was alive by this point. So here we get to the fourth apparition. Remember, there's 5 apparitions total. This is the fourth one, right? On the 12th of December, today, almost 500 years ago, Juan Diego's uncle's condition is in rapid decline. And this is we're in the early morning of the 12th of December, right? Juan Diego sets out to find a priest to hear his uncle's deathbed confessions, right? Because, of course, we want our relatives to go to heaven with us, and so Juan Diego wants his uncle to die in a state of grace. Juan Diego's uncle wants to die in a state of grace. So sets out to go find a priest to hear his deathbed confession. But he feels really, really bad because he broke his promise to the Virgin. Because his uncle fell ill, he couldn't go see her, right? He had to stay and take care of his uncle. Couldn't keep his promise. Felt terrible about it. I mean, just terrible, right? He feels so terrible, in fact, that when he goes to look for a priest, he avoids the Tepeyac Hill where they met, right? He avoids that because he's like, I don't want to see her. I'm too ashamed of breaking my promise, right? So he avoids Tepeyac Hill, but is intercepted by the Virgin anyway. And Juan Diego sheepishly explains his situation to Mother Mary, explains that his uncle is sick, and that's why he couldn't go see her. And this is where we get the iconic words of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Do not let your heart be troubled, my beloved child. Do not let anything worry you or affect you. Do not fear illness or any trouble or pain. Am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my care and my protection? Am I not your life and your health? Are you not in the folds of my mantle? Do I not carry you in my arms? These are the famous words that are often quoted, specifically the part, am I not here, I who am your mother? ¿Acaso no estoy yo aquí, quien soy tu madre? And, keep in mind, I don't know if I mentioned this, Juan Diego doesn't speak Spanish. So the Virgin of Guadalupe is talking to him in his native language, Nahuatl. Right? Nahuatl. So the fifth apparition doesn't happen to Juan Diego, it happens to Juan Diego's uncle, right? So the Virgin Mary says, don't sweat it, I got you. And she just goes to Juan Diego's uncle and just heals him, and he's completely fine after that. Like, he's not dying anymore. He's as healthy as a horse, right? The Virgin Mary appears to Juan Diego's uncle and miraculously cures his illness. Juan Diego is then instructed to go to the top of Tepeyac, right? Collect the Castilian roses that are on the top of Tepeyac. First of all, what's miraculous about this is that A, Castilian roses are not native to Mexico, right? B, this was the winter time where they would not have grown. They were out of season in December. So the fact that they were growing on top of Tepeyac Hill was miraculous in and of itself, right? So he goes to bring the roses to the bishop because this is the sign that he was looking for. This is the sign that he wanted to bring to the bishop, right? I'm going to go on to the next slide. I apologize in advance. The video is going to be in like 360p. Also, it's in Spanish, so if you don't speak Spanish, you're going to have to just imagine what they're saying. Oh, I mentioned that the bishop had two servants. They're kind of depicted as these like cartoonishly evil Disney villains. You'll see what I mean. But yes, they speak Spanish, so if you don't speak Spanish, you just have to imagine what they're saying. Lights.
Ah, no, esta vez no. Por tu culpa me ha llamado la atención, ilustrísima. ¿Ya apareciste? ¿Dónde te fuiste a meter antier cuando saliste de aquí? Me fui a mi jacal, señor. ¿A tu jacal? ¿Por dónde? En cuanto bajaste la barranca, te saliste del camino. No, señor, con permiso de su merced. Precisamente en la barranca me salió la señora. Indio mentiroso. En la barranca no había nadie. No me diga mentiroso, señor. Yo no sé decir mentiras. La señora me mandó de nuevo que viniera a ver a Tata Obispo y le trajera la señal. ¿Qué me pidió? ¿Señal? ¿Cuál es? ¿Qué traes allí? La señora Morenita me dijo que solo a Tata Obispo le enseñe lo que trae. Pues ya no se le enseñaste a nadie. Lo que es a Fray Juan, no lo volverás a ver. No seas terco con Diego. Déjame ver lo que traes. Si vale la pena, yo le diré a tu ilustrísima. Déjame ver. Ah, caray. No te enojes, que yo ya me iba. Sea lo que sea, a tu ilustrísima no lo vuelves a molestar. ¡No entrarás! ¡Oh, no! ¿Qué pasa aquí? Ay, nada, ilustrísima. ¿Que otra vez el tal Juan Diego? Juan Diego ya volvió. ¿Y por qué no se me había avisado? Es un indio, su ilustrísima. Y precisamente porque es un indio debemos darle toda nuestra atención. Pasa, Juan Diego. ¿Qué pasó contigo? Ayer me dejaste esperando. Perdóname, Tata Obispo. Mi tío Bernardino se enfermó y ya no pude venir. Pero ya estoy aquí y traigo la señal que me pediste. Cuando se la pedí a la señora, ella me despachó a la cumbre de Cerrillo, a que fuese a cortar varias rosas de Castilla. Aunque yo sabía bien que en la cumbre solo hay abrojos, espinas, nopales y mezquites, no por eso dudé. Y cuando llegué a la cumbre, miré que estaba en el paraíso. Corté las rosas y bajé a enseñártelas a la señora. Ella me dijo que te las había de entregar y así lo hago, para que en ella veas la señal que pides y cumpla su voluntad. Y también para que aparezca la verdad de mi palabra y de mi mensaje. Helas aquí, recíbelas. ¿Qué pasa, Tata Obispo? ¿Qué sucede? Espera, hijo. Espera. Mi morenita. Este hecho aconteció hace 450 años. Desde entonces, el pueblo de México se pone de rodillas ante un santuario y vuelve sus ojos hacia una madre. Es lo que sostiene nuestra verdadera nacionalidad. Es lo que todos los mexicanos, todos, desde el más devoto hasta el más desgarrado, llevamos irrevocablemente metido en el corazón: el amor a la guadalupana.
Now, obviously, there was some artistic liberties in that clip specifically, right? I don't know if there was like a cartoonishly mouse-looking chihuahua at the event, or a bee with a big nose. Who knows? Anyway, so today, Juan Diego's tilma is housed at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. I was supposed to go last year, but unfortunately I ran out of time, right? Because my dad's village is only about like a 2-hour drive away from Mexico City. So yeah, that's the tilma, right? And as you can see underneath is the Mexican flag. And now there are several miracles associated with Our Lady of Guadalupe, right? And I will get to those right now. Oh, that's the basilica, by the way. You know, looks like that. Pretty nice. Kind of, you know, I don't know, cone. Lots of people. There's lots of people. Every year.
Is that the small chapel they built? No.
I think that's the basilica itself. Because that's not a small chapel.
Can you go visit the chapel that they built? The original chapel?
Yes.
It's behind that.
It's behind. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time I was here, I must have been like 5 years old. I don't remember. I was supposed to go again last year, and I'm so mad because I was like, I didn't have time. Anyway, every year thousands of pilgrims come here, right? You might have seen videos of like people like getting on their knees and just like walking to the basilica, right? And there's lots of miracles associated with the Virgin of Guadalupe, right? One of the most famous ones that you'll hear from everybody is they'll pray for their health, right? Much like Juan Diego's uncle, you know, he was on his deathbed. Dude was about to die. He was gonna croak at any minute, and then he just is fine because of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So,
Meaning she called on her, on God
yeah,
to heal him.
yes, exactly.
She didn't heal him.
Yes. And so, a lot of people ask for the Virgin of Guadalupe's intercession when it comes to things that maybe they need, right? And so the tradition often goes, it's like, once the Virgin of Guadalupe, I guess like, once what they need is given to them, they make the trip here and they get on their knees and they crawl and they sing. It's very interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos I sent in the WhatsApp, or shameless plug here. I posted it also on my Instagram, so, you know. So here's some other miracles associated with the tilma of Guadalupe, of Juan Diego, which has the impression of Guadalupe on it. The tilma is made of agave fibers. That is a plant-based fiber, right? It has been almost 500 years since that tilma has been woven, right? And it has not degraded even a little bit, right? I don't know if you guys know, but plants are like these biodegradable things. They don't last forever, right? Excuse me. And so the tilma is still in like perfect condition, right? It has not deteriorated once. Various healings reported by pilgrims. Again, that's something like right now, the Mexican news media is like going nuts because like people are like talking about miracles that they have experienced, right? The image of Mary remains, listen to this, it remains at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the temperature of a human body. So very interesting there. And here's something too. It survived a terrorist attack. And I'll talk about that. So, 1921, right? The Mexican Revolution is over, right? There's still a lot of tensions politically, right? And Catholicism is very, very like pervasive throughout Mexican society, right? And some people really do not like this. So there was a guy, specifically a political extremist, right, and huge militant atheist. He goes into the basilica, right, posing as a pilgrim, pretending like he's there to pay his respects or to, you know, pray or whatever, brings a bouquet of flowers and leaves it, like, right next to the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. There's actually a bomb in there, right? The bomb goes off. But the tilma is unharmed. It got, like, there's not a scratch on it. According to witnesses, there was a crucifix that was right next to the tilma. There was a crucifix that seemed to just like bend so that it got in the way of the bomb, right? And they have it on display at the basilica still.
Oh, wow.
Yep. It bended so that it would protect the tilma of Juan Diego. And they call it El Señor del Ataque. In other words, the Lord of the attack. Right, because that crucifix got in the way of the bomb. And then I was actually talking to Scott earlier. Oh, by the way, this is a quote in Nahuatl and its Spanish translation. Sobre un cerrito cualquiera donde las flores se extienden, yo vi a una joven mujer y mi corazón latió apresuradamente. Okay. I was talking to Scott earlier, And Scott was telling me there's another miracle of Guadalupe that I didn't know about. Scott, do you want to come up here and share that with us?
Oh. Hi, this is scripted and planned for, which is why I'm totally not going on my phone. Essentially, we're on fire, Bishop Barron. So, long story short, it's October 7th, 1571. There is basically a large Muslim fleet coming from the Ottoman Empire. We kind of don't really get to hear about this a lot because of just kind of how our education system is set up. But for a lot of history, there was a lot of persecution of Christians in the Middle East, and the Muslim invaders like the Moors came in and took over Spain at one point. And their goal was to take over Europe and conquer all of Europe and turn all of Europe Muslim. And so there's this Ottoman fleet that's coming to invade Italy specifically. And then Pope Pius V organized a Holy League to go and meet this fleet out in the Mediterranean Sea. The Ottoman forces were big. Their fleet was way larger than the Holy Fleet. And so Pope Pius V bankrolled this whole operation, and he asked for all the church to pray the rosary on the day of the battle. And specifically, one of the captains on the ship brought an image of the tilma on board that had been discarded for a long while. And so it's associated that the victory came through the intercession of Mary, because as the Holy League met the Ottoman fleet, the Ottomans had the wind at their sails, right? They had the wind at their sails, and the Ottomans should have won. The Christian fleet was outnumbered 10-1. It was supposed to be a loss. But as the battle began, the wind shifted in the favor of the Holy League, and the Holy League completely decimated the entire Ottoman fleet, thanks to the intercession of all the prayers of the Church of the Holy Rosary and Our Lady of Guadalupe, who was there physically in the battle through a copy of the tilma in the battle. So, pretty cool. So.
Anyway, yeah, that's the story of the Virgin of Guadalupe and some miracles associated with the Virgin of Guadalupe. I don't know how to end things.
How about any questions?
Any questions?
I just like a comment. I never realized that in the image she's pregnant. I went to mass today, and the priest was talking about that. It's the only physical apparition of Mary where she's actually pregnant.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that either, because I don't know.
It's hard to see.
It's hard to see. It is hard to see. We can look at different depictions, but yeah, I guess she's supposed to be pregnant in that in the image of Guadalupe. So that's interesting.
Yeah, the black tie thing.
I don't know. Was anyone at mass this morning at 6?
I was at noon.
Oh, noon.
Mm-hmm.
Father Morta had meant. Well, I was there for 6 a.m. and maybe my
6 a.m.
Yeah, maybe my fellow 6 a.m.ers can vouch for this if you pay attention during the homily. I'm just kidding. But he mentions about how there's this plant that they would use oftentimes for rituals, and it's a 3-leafed plant, and dang, help me on my 6 a.m.ers. And
it was
basically, go ahead.
Yeah, because the people who lived where the Tepeyac was, there was a common plant.
Mm-hmm.
They believed that there was a perfect plant out there that had 4 leaves. And in the apparition, I think in the image, there was a picture of a 4-leaf clove on Mother Mary's womb area, which is kind of signifying that the perfection is what she's bringing, Jesus.
And thank you for that. And so, in a second, we're gonna come out to in front of the chapel. There's maybe you've passed by it before. But there's a copy of the same size as the same Virgin that's in the Basilica. And so in a second we'll go out there and we can, appreciate the tilma and what Mary appeared almost 500 years ago. But yeah, I learned that today.
Thank
and then
you.
Thank you, Ricky, for
Yes.
Can I ask one quick question?
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Or John can go first.
Oh, I don't I don't want to be hard on the bishop or something, but I don't know if you know anything he had some kind of conversion, or because in the story of Mary's cousin and there was that guy, and he's like, hey, like you're gonna have like a baby, your wife's gonna get pregnant, and he was like, nah, not gonna happen. And Gabriel was like, shut up, and he like muted him. He took his voice away, And I don't know, like this bishop, he was like, oh, show me a sign, and I'll believe. And like even Jesus says, like a wicked and perverse generation asks for a sign, like so I don't know, like, and then like Mary was like, this guy, like I don't know, like is there any like for that guy like like he was a little too hard on him, I guess like everyone says something.
I can say that I get it, right? Because like to be fair, the Catholic Church does meet a lot of the claims of like visions or apparitions with skepticism, right? Because if we were to go around like believing every single apparition, believing every single vision, eventually we would get visions and apparitions that contradict each other, right? Because a lot of people, they use the idea of apparitions or visions for their own gain, to push their own ideas, etc., etc. So it's like we kind of have to differentiate, is this the real deal, or is this something that someone is just saying for the sake of, I don't know, either maybe they want to get famous, they want to get known, they want to blow up, or they want to push their ideas, etc., right? Which is kind of why there's like skepticism around certain Marian apparitions. So let me give you an example, right? There's a supposed Marian apparition called Our Lady of Palmaria, I think that's what it's called, right? And essentially that Marian apparition led to the creation of a schismatic church called the Palmarian Catholic Church that has their own Pope, Peter III. Yes.
Do you think like there's another like I was like thinking because like it was like like she met him like a couple times. Yeah. It was like 5 times, and I don't know Mary comes a lot to like that one person. It's like I want to like teach you something because like Fatima it was like a ton, and she was coming. She was like giving them like instructions, and this one's kind of the same where she like works with them. It isn't just like show up once and say, "Here I am," and like she kind of like sticks around and hey, I'm gonna like. I don't know, I think it has something to do with that too, like
maybe
she sticks around. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
she does stick around. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he says she's still around to this day.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just thought that was like something that clicked for me, like the 5th apparition, like that she showed up.
Yeah, and a lot of them, Mary does show up multiple times. There's some apparitions where she only shows up once. One of those notable ones where she kind of just shows up once is Our Lady of Zaytun, which is an apparition that happened in Egypt, right? And she appeared on top of a church, and this was witnessed by like thousands of people. Thousands of people saw the Virgin Mary. What? Millions of people. The president of Egypt at the time saw this apparition of Mary, and that was the reason he converted to Christianity. This isn't an apparition that is officially approved by the Catholic Church, though. It's recognized by the Coptic Orthodox Church. So that's like, the Egyptian church.
What's the other one? Our Lady of Medjugorje?
Yeah, that one happened in Bosnia.
Croatia. Yeah, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Yeah. But it was like happening even last year in the summertime. We were there and we were like trying to decide if we were going to go or not, but it's not like officially recognized.
Yeah,
she was showing up like on a daily basis.
Yeah, and people are saying that, like,
we're seeing up when you were there.
We didn't go. It would have been like we'd have to cross country lines and get a special driver to go there and get back to our cruise ship type of thing. So we decided not to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was like reading there's a website in real time, a website that was saying she was here last night at 9:00, and
wow.
But the church hasn't recognized it officially.
That was the conversion for Father Don Calloway.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he read there was a book that his mom had in his house, and he was like, I don't want to tell another story, but you can listen to his conversion story. But there was a book in his mom's house, and he was like, "What's this?" And he started reading it. He was like, "Whoa, this is real." It's good, but it was that Medjugorje.
It sounded just like Father Calloway.
Huh?
It sounded just like Father Calloway, bro.
We know.
Yeah, we saw him. He was good, bro.
Okay.
He was good.
Yeah.
Scott, did you have something to say?
Oh, yes, like, I understand, like, Our Lady of Guadalupe is, like, the major reason why, like, a lot of people in Mexico, like, in that area, like, converted. So, like, like, how did that happen? Was it just, like...
So, I wish I had done more research on this part, on, like, of millions of indigenous people. But if I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do more research on this. But if I had to guess at this very moment, my guess would be is that I'm going to use an analogy here. Like, oftentimes we see artwork of Jesus and of Mary, and they're often depicted as the ethnicity of the artist, of whoever created the image, right? I've seen depictions of African Jesus. I've seen depictions of Asian Jesus, right? And she often, in Marian apparitions, this is the interesting thing, she often appears as the same ethnicity of to whoever she's appearing, right? So there's another Marian apparition that this one is also not recognized officially by the Catholic Church. There's a popular devotion to it, but it's not like official, and it's called Our Lady of La Vang, and that one happened in Vietnam. There was a wave of anti-Christian persecution in Vietnam, and a lot of Catholics who, they were being executed, they saw a vision of the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus, but they were wearing traditional Vietnamese garb, and they looked Vietnamese, right? And this is kind of a similar thing. The Virgin Mary here appeared as an indigenous woman. She appeared as a Nahuatl woman speaking Nahuatl, right? She's speaking Nahuatl to Juan Diego, he didn't speak Spanish. He's speaking Nahuatl, right? And then what else? There's another one. There was one that happened in Rwanda. And again, the Virgin Mary appeared as a Rwandan woman. She appeared as an African woman. It's just kind of, I think it's like people find it easier to relate with.
Because she appeared as
someone
who would have been from there.
For someone who
She
would have been
chose
from there.
Someone who was humble.
Right, and we, I don't know if you in the clip that was in Spanish, if you guys speak Spanish, the servants of the bishop was like, why should we listen to him? He's just an Indian, right? But the bishop was like, that's exactly why we should be listening to him, right? We should be paying special attention to him. And so it kind of, in a way, I guess, bridged the gap between the Spanish and the indigenous in what was then New Spain. That's my guess, at least. Yes.
Just really quick. I know with Our Lady of Fatima, she kind of gave was it 3 kids?
Yeah.
Kind of like a warning for the generation, or like she was like teaching them or telling them like something that they had to do, or that. Do you know if the Virgin of Guadalupe gave some kind of like teaching, or just anything other than just like build a chapel here?
As far as I know, the whole teaching was supposed to be like, you don't have to be someone that's like, I mean, we kind of saw that, right? Like, she was like, I have like saints and I have people on earth who could like give this message, and they probably could do it way better than you, but I need you to do it because I'm trying to prove a point, and that point is, the humble will be exalted, right? The last shall be first, right? And Juan Diego, again, wasn't a particularly like heroic figure. He was a very humble guy. He was an indigenous person, right? And there's a lot of like debate on the way society was in New Spain. So some people might argue he would have been like a second-class citizen, or he would have been like just like a nobody, right? Because he kind of was a nobody. He was just an indigenous peasant, right? But it was that humility, that humbleness, that kind of was like, that was the point, was that he was just this humble guy, and even the most humble people could proclaim the word of God and be like, evangelizing.
Yeah.
I guess this is for like you or for anyone who wants to like, I'm not like super Mexican, or my family isn't like, so like, so like when people like see the image, like my idea, like what I see, like, and what maybe she was trying to like give everybody was like hope. Like hope, like I don't know, like, so I don't know if like anyone else has like what is the image like? What is she trying to tell everybody through that image? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, maybe it was like purposeful too. You said 4 times, like when he was ashamed to go see her, that was purposeful in a way, maybe on her part, to say, look, don't ever be ashamed. You can come to me and my son, right? And you will be under my mantle, and we will hear your prayers and answer them. So that's the same idea of that hope. And she wanted to make sure he got that clear message.
Yep.
So
I'd say so, yeah.
Just real quick, also, I think just like the timing too was important, because it was like right, I think during or after like the whole Protestant
Yes, it was
Reformation.
happening like at the same
At
time
the
as
same
the
time.
Protestant
So it's
Reformation.
like pretty much all the Catholics that were the church was losing to the Protestant churches. Think of all the Catholics. Isn't it like the largest like
Yep.
conversion to
It's the
Catholicism?
longest mass conversion in history.
Yeah. So think about how that just like perfect timing, man.
One more thing I want to add. Did you guys know that there's actually another Virgin of Guadalupe? Ha, I bet you didn't know that. Let me explain that real quick, right? So, in the, I think it's like the 12th or 13th century, right? The Moors took over Spain, right? And there was a shrine to the Virgin Mary, right? In a town called Extremadura or something like that, right? And coincidentally enough, Extremadura was where a lot of the conquistadors actually came from, right? So the story goes is that when the Moors took over Spain, right, a couple of priests who were in charge of this shrine, they took the statue of Mary and they buried it, right? Because the Muslims take that sort of thing very seriously. If they see you making statues, that's a big no-no in Islam, right? So, they buried it because they didn't want to get in trouble, whatever. And then 100 years later, right, the Virgin Mary appears to a cowboy named Gil. I don't remember his last name, but his first name is Gil. Basically, she tells him, hey, go to this spot right here and get a couple of priests and get them to dig up whatever's underground. And they dig it up and it's the statue of Mary. And then that's the first Virgin of Guadalupe. It's not as famous as our Virgin of Guadalupe because if you go on the Wikipedia page, it goes Our Lady of Guadalupe, parentheses, extraderma. Whereas our Guadalupe is just Our Lady of Guadalupe. There's no parentheses. There's no sort of like, that's because that's the one that most people talk about. Anyway, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you.
So